This week on Uncut Gems with Slim, you can carry around a whole bunch of weighted negative energy that you don't even have to be carrying. Like, you voluntarily carrying it around because you don't want to go and talk to the person who offended you. Uncut Gems with Slim, yeah, that's the name. What's up, y'all? I hope y'all are doing well. Today, I'm so excited because we get to talk about a topic that is very popular to talk about, and that's relationships. From platonic, business, romantic, all of the things. But this is going to be not your typical relationship episode. So I wanted to chat about how relationships are so important. And it made me think about my previous job. I kind of assumed this role of being a mediator, or like, really, child, it was given I'm a therapist. But I had this like unspoken role of being there for the people who worked with me and helping them navigate conversations that may be difficult because they may have ran into a snafu of sorts, right? And so I would be the one who would step in and try and help everyone come to a mutual understanding to basically just make it a healthy work environment. I really not take pride in, but it excites me to be given the opportunity to be able to help bring people together, especially in the workplace when it can be very hard for you to find people who can advocate on your behalf. So as a person who is able to advocate on people's behalf, but also just help them to communicate more effectively, like, I really enjoy doing that. And so what I often notice when like tension would arise in the workplace, it will boil down to the impact not matching the intention. And most of the time, people's actions always reflected how someone made the person feel. Whether you realize it or not, how you treat people and how you make them feel actually matters. Like, people may not remember the situation that happened or whatever, but 9 times out of 10, they'll never forget how you made them feel. So even if the situation was bad, if you still gave them a feeling of peace throughout the situation, like, they're gonna remember that peace that they had during it versus like the little intricate details of the situation that may have happened. Luke 6:31 says, "As you wish that others would do to you, do so to them." And that basically means treat others how you want to be treated. And so I've been holding tight to the WWJD, what would Jesus do? I've been holding tight to that because it really is like an all-encompassing question that will get you together real quick. And when I come into situations that are like off-putting, or I don't feel like I'm being treated the way that I want to be treated, asking myself, like, what would Jesus do? How would Jesus react? That will reset my mind to a posture of extending grace and offering forgiveness. Because sometimes your immediate reaction is like, pop off. Stop playing with me. But when you just, if you train yourself to ask yourself, what would Jesus do? What would Jesus do? What would Jesus do? Baby, you will start to see change in how you react and how you respond to people. Then you also have to consider, like, if I treat others how I want to be treated, that might not necessarily be the way that they want to be treated. And that's when the example of your intent not matching the impact that it has, that's an example of that. So if I intended to encouraging you by telling you the truth about something, maybe it impacted you in a way that made you feel like I was coming for you, or I was down in what you got going on, even though my intent was to encourage you. Hopefully that makes sense. And that kind of plays into how people oftentimes get offended, right? Like, everybody get offended. Child, you might get offended every day, ain't no telling. But sometimes when you get offended, like, the person who offended you wasn't even coming from a place of, rah-rah. Like, they wasn't trying to come for you. They may have had a different intent behind, whatever offended you. That just shows you how the intent that you have behind somebody versus like how it actually impacts somebody is out of your control. And that might happen even if your delivery is good and your intent is good, it can still come off the wrong way. And I think that's why it's so important to be mindful of your delivery, your tone, how you're saying what you're saying, the timing in which you say it. And it kind of places a responsibility on both parties. So if you're the person who may have offended someone, like when you're communicating with them, you have to strive to get to a place of understanding. Because typically when you get offended, it's because you're not on the same playing field or the same level of understanding with the other person. Because if my mama telling me to do something and I'm not understanding what she's saying, or it may be a place of disagreement, like if y'all are communicating about a topic and you're not understanding and you don't agree on said thing, then I'm not going to be able to digest what you're telling me. Like, I'm gonna be offended. And that's normally where offense happen, is when there's disagreement or misunderstanding between people over a situation. If you're the offender, if you offended somebody, there's a unspoken responsibility kind of for you to communicate in a way that the person receiving the information understands what you're saying. And even if they don't agree with what you're saying, if they understand where you're coming from, not just the what you're saying, but also the why behind it, then I feel like that alleviates the space for offense to happen. And then if you're the offended person, there's a unspoken responsibility there for, if you get something wrong and you feel like, okay, Slim said that and she offended me. If you're offended, you have that responsibility to approach, whoever offended you to try and gain clarity. Not approach them like, okay, you offended me, what's good? Like, you trying to pop off. But like, just really trying to gain understanding and clarity, because they may have not offered that to you. They might have just said what they said and was hoping you was going to receive it. And if you don't, you have the ability to create that open communication to try and better understand what said person was trying to say. And this kind of reminds me of one time we were doing Bible study and we were talking about Matthew 18:15, which says, if your brother sins against you, go and tell him his fault between you and him alone. If he listens to you, you have gained yourself a brother. When I read that, it really reminds me of the opportunity for growth that can come from confrontation, or that can come from confronting like an area where there's confusion or disagreement or misunderstanding. If there's a situation where you get offended, instead of like carrying around that elephant in the room that, you're offended and you're being weighed down by something, like try and communicate first with the person who offended you, right? And now that I'm talking about this, I could have practiced this last week, because y'all, I was offended. I was in a situation where I felt like my niceness was being taken advantage of, and I was like offended. Like, I was like, I feel like you using me. Like, that's how I felt. And I didn't properly communicate that first with the person who offended me. And that's just a good example of how, like, you can carry around like a whole bunch of weighted negative energy that you don't even have to be carrying. Like, you voluntarily carrying it around because you don't want to go and talk to the person who offended you. And with that being said, half the time you probably beefing with yourself, because I've also been on the other end where people have been offended by me and I not even know. And so they was walking around weeks, offended by me, by something I said or did, and I had no idea. So if you're that person and you don't, approach whoever offended you, like, the offender probably walking around, living their best life because they don't even know they did something to offend you. And there's no way for you to gain that clarity or, get back on one accord until you have that one-on-one conversation. And I think it's very important to do as Matthew 18:15 says, to, go one-on-one with the person who offended you. Because the moment that you start talking and gossiping and telling friend over here what happened and, oh, they pissed me off, the moment you keep doing all of that, then you messing with other people. Now other people about to be, might start acting weird over a situation because you put that bug in their ear that somebody done piss you off. Like, why are we... Can we spread positivity or something? What if gossip was positive? Like, I feel like life would be so much more amazing if we gossiped about positive stuff, right? Anyway, so with all that being said, I will also say, like, if you're a person who is offended, forgiveness is a great part of overcoming, like, that tension. So if you get offended by something, so I guess I could take it back to the example of where I was offended last week. And like today, I have the opportunity to let it go, or I can still walk around being offended. And it's not doing nothing but gonna weigh me down and make me lose sleep at night, versus if I just forgive them, baby, lay them folks at the altar and be like, I give it to the Lord, I forgive them, and truly forgive them. But forgiveness, that's a topic for another day. So these are examples of why it is so important to constantly grow your relationship equity in life. To me, relationship equity is just like, como se dice, your investments in your relationships that you have. And I can't stress it enough, like, you never know where life is gonna take you. And so you want to be mindful when you meet people, when you interact with people, of how you leave them feeling. Not necessarily like your first impressions, but like how did you make them feel in your encounter? Like, were they uplifted? Did they feel joy? Did they feel peace? Or was it positive or negative how you made them feel? Of course, you always want to treat other people fairly, because the way you treat someone can have great impact. Not on just them, but you don't know how big of an impact a small yes can be. So your yes to showing up for somebody, you don't know how that moment will trickle and affect a lifetime of other people. What old folks say, you could catch more bees with honey than you can vinegar, or whatever the saying is. But like, if you need a favor, being kind is probably gonna get you that favor more so than if you pitch the attitude with the person that you need help from. Not saying that you should be kind and be sweet just so you can get something in return, but more so, like, you should kind of make kindness a part of your daily life, like a part of who you are. Like Romans 12:10 ESV says, love one another with brotherly affection, outdo one another in showing honor. And I believe that in general, like, I'm a pretty good person, right? Like, or at least that's my opinion. I think I'm a pretty good person. My goal is to constantly work toward living out Romans 12:10. To love everyone with brotherly affection, even those people who offend me, and even people I don't agree with. Like, everyone. And I think this concept in itself, like, if everyone in the world loved each other with brotherly affection and tried to outdo each other in showing honor, like, our world would be drastically different if we all did that. And so I kind of want to switch gears. And in my life, almost every single job I acquired has been because of who I knew, not what I knew. And I'm not saying that to, toot my horn or whatever. I'm saying it because it's just a testimony of how life is better when we do it together. Martha Goddard, I think that's her name, she once said, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And that just speaks to how impactful it is when you do life with community, when you do life with others, when you don't try to do everything alone. And if you take it to the Bible, Genesis 2:18 says, the Lord God said, it is not good for the man to be alone. I will make a helper suitable for him. And the Bible can't lie. So it said it is not good for the man to be alone. So right there, point blank period, ain't no misunderstanding that. It's not good for us to be alone. I think it's so important to build community and do life with other people. And I think the way that you build like a strong network is based on how you make people feel when you encounter them. And I know I'm not the only one who remembers like how someone makes me feel. Like I'm gonna remember that above anything else that occurred or happened. Like I'm gonna remember how you make me feel, and it's gonna be hard for me to forget how you made me feel if it wasn't positive. Now, yes, again, forgiveness is another talk for another day, but you gotta forgive the folks if they offend you with the woo. But it's very hard to forget how someone made you feel, which is why it's so important to, be mindful of how you might make someone feel when you interact with them. Another good example is, y'all ever been through the drive-thru and the people on the speaker just be so, they got an attitude, they having a bad day or something like that. So when I go through the drive-thru, no matter what they say, the first thing they say, I'm always like, hi, how are you? Because a lot of people don't even get asked, like, how are you? Now, granted, I'm not expecting them to come across a thing and be like, well, girl, I'm having a bad day, da 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 da. But at least, like, you're getting them to pause in a moment, and being able to respond like, I am more than just the person working the drive-thru. Like, I am me. And I know it might not be that deep, but that's what I think about every time that I say, I'm like, how you doing today? And I try to give them some great energy. I've worked in fast food before, and that really has nothing to do with this. But I know, like, everyone has bad days. And it doesn't take much to be able to impact someone or put a smile on their face or, make them laugh. You don't know how easy it can be for you to be the highlight of somebody's day. And I think it's so amazing that we have the opportunity to do that every day. Literally every day we have an opportunity to put a smile on someone's face, even if it's just through a wave or, oh girl, you look nice, like whatever it may be. Like, we have the opportunity to impact people daily. So that kind of leads me into the challenge for this week. I want you to ask somebody how they doing. Somebody you don't know. It could be somebody you know that you might not speak to regularly, but ask somebody how they doing. Or compliment somebody. It don't take much. Girl, I like that outfit. Or girl, your hair look good. Like, a lot of times we think like positive things, or maybe it's just me, but at least for me, like when I'm going places, if I see someone who I would give a compliment to, normally I just keep it in my head and I'm like, oh, she look real cute or whatever. But literally all I have to do is be like, girl, I like that outfit, and just say it. And like that literally brightens people's day. Like, I know it happens for me. I went to a dinner the other day and I literally was walking back from the bathroom, came back to my table, and the lady, like, it was one of the servers, she came all the way to my table and she was like, girl, I saw you walking across, the restaurant, and I just want to tell you, killing it, girl. Like, you look real good, da 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 da. And it like warmed my heart so much. So knowing how heartfelt that interaction made me feel, like, it encourages me to want to do that for other people. If I'm thinking like, okay, girl, your outfit fine, like, I'ma say it because I just want to sow that positive energy and encouragement into people. And again, back to the challenge, I want you to ask someone how they're doing, compliment them, or just sow a random act of kindness towards someone. So that can be, if you're at Starbucks, hey, I want to pay for the order behind me, or ask the Starbucks people, girl, I know you probably get this for free, but can I order you something? Or tip someone, more than you would normally tip. Like, just do a random act of kindness so we can just start flooding the streets and, you know, flooding our communities with more love. And yeah, y'all, it's really not that hard to be the hands and feet of Jesus, no matter how small the gesture is. Like, it has impact. So I just want you to go into this week feeling encouraged, excited. Nobody told y'all today I love y'all. I hope y'all doing good. I really do. Y'all can chat down in the comment section below and greet other people who's been on the podcast. So make sure you guys check us out on Instagram at Uncut Gems with Slim. I would love for you guys to DM me or comment and share with me what random act of kindness that you guys do this week. You already know I love y'all, and until next week.